Hello everyone and welcome back to another vegan and gluten-free recipe episode on this channel. Today I'm making a vegan version of an Indian vegetarian classic, which is this batch of palak tofu. I truly am so excited to make this dish because Indian food is my second favorite cuisine behind Ethiopian food, of course. And this vegan recipe is a take on palak paneer, which is an Indian dish featuring cheese, or more specifically cheese curds. As a vegan who loves Indian food, I've seen palak paneer all the time, a million times in Indian restaurants, but of course I never order it because it does have the dairy component. So this is a nice opportunity to enjoy the flavors and most of the ingredients that are in traditional palak paneer minus the cheese. There's 17 ingredients. They're all right here on my countertop. This is quite a few ingredients compared to a lot of my recent vlogs with I don't know, a dozen ingredients or 10 ingredients, sometimes less, but you know what? I know these are all gonna come together to be delicious. So let's go through each of these 17 ingredients one by one super quickly. First up, we have 8 ounces of chopped tofu. I've cut it into cubes and patted it dry. And as you may have guessed, this tofu is going to be the substitute for the paneer cheese that you would traditionally have in palak paneer. There's also 1 cup of chopped yellow onion, 3/4 of a cup of chopped tomato, 10 ounces of spinach. I'm using 2 5-ounce containers of this Organic Girl baby spinach, 3 chopped Thai green chili peppers. To be honest, the recipe only called for 1 green chili pepper. I love my food really spicy, so I decided to go with 3. I may live to regret this based on how potent these chili peppers smell all chopped up, so we shall see how this palak tofu brings the heat. 5 chopped cloves of garlic. These are 10 cashews soaked in hot water for about 15 minutes, 2 tablespoons of vegan plant butter, 1/2 cup of water, 1/4 cup of unsweetened coconut milk, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 1 teaspoon of garam masala, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/4 teaspoon of ground turmeric, and finally 1 teaspoon of sea salt. To give you a sense of how this recipe will generally work, I'll be first sauteing a bunch of the ingredients in a saucepan on my stovetop. Then I'll bring that saucepan back over here and I'll be blending all that lovely goodness from the saucepan in my blender. And then finally I'll take that blended mixture of most of the ingredients, throw it back into the saucepan and simmer that for a few minutes. So it is a bit of back and forth between my stovetop, my countertop with the blender, and back again, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It's not too crazy, but let's get into the 10 specific recipe steps to make this palak tofu. Before I dive into the recipe steps though, I wanna give a shout out to my lovely friend Surbi. She's the one who sent this recipe to me and recommended that I feature it on my channel. I've linked that recipe down below in the description box in case you would like to follow along and make some of this palak tofu yourself. For step number 1, I'll take the cumin seeds and saute them in the vegan plant butter in the saucepan over on my stovetop. For step number 2, I'll add in the chopped garlic, the 3 chopped green chili peppers, and the ginger powder into the saucepan. For step number 3, I'll take the 1 cup of chopped yellow onion, throw that into the saucepan, and mix everything together for about 4 minutes. For step number 4, I'll move along to the chopped tomato as well as the spices over here and throw those into the saucepan. And in case you forgot the spices that I mentioned before, I'll be throwing in the garam masala, the coriander powder, the chili powder, and the turmeric. For step number 5, I'll take the 10 ounces of spinach as well as the 1/2 cup of water and put those into the saucepan and try to get the spinach to really wilt down. For step number 6, I'll take that saucepan mixture with the spinach and the spices and all the good stuff and throw that into my blender along with the cashews and blend it until it's looking nice and pureed. For step number 7, I'll take the pureed spinach mixture in the blender and head back to my stovetop where I'll pour it into the same saucepan and simmer it down for about 3 minutes. For step number 8, I'll take the 1/4 cup of unsweetened coconut milk and pour that into the simmering spinach mixture. For step number 9, I'm going to take the lovely chopped tofu, last but not least, but honestly probably the most important ingredient here, and I'll pour those tofu cubes into the spinach mixture as well. And for step number 10, I will dish up the lovely palak palak tofu right here on my countertop. I have prepared some brown rice to dish it on top of, and I'll let you know what I think of this lovely vegan take on palak paneer. So let's get started with this recipe. I'm going to bring you over to my stovetop where I'll begin by sauteing the cumin seeds in my saucepan. Here we are, we made it through the 10 recipe steps. Well, I should say we're on step number 10, which is dishing up and showing you the palak tofu. Before I put it on my plate, before I dig into anything, I want to show you a close-up of this beautiful, beautiful spinach puree with the tofu pieces in it. I mean, it's so colorful and my mouth is absolutely watering. I mean, seriously, just look at this shade of green. It just screams healthy at you. If it doesn't, I don't know what you're thinking. And what I think is so clever about the tofu substitution is, without looking super closely or digging into it, it really does resemble the paneer dairy cheese curds that you would have in traditional palak paneer. All right, your girl is hollow as a husk. I am absolutely starving. Let's first get some of this brown rice that I mentioned earlier plated up as a nice carby bed for the palak tofu to land on. Let's try to keep this pretty neat, although I feel like saying that just jinxes me, to be honest. Oof. There you go. I told you, I jinxed myself. You know, it just had to happen. Man, I think you could fool some people. If you didn't tell them it was tofu, I think they would happily eat this thinking that they were eating cheese curds. Just look at how thick and creamy this turned out. I really think the coconut milk helped to bring it up a level in richness. Finally in my life, I'm getting to see what at least the sauce with the spinach puree of palak paneer tastes like, even if it isn't truly like the dairy version of palak paneer. This is close enough, so honestly, whatever. I'm counting this as me pretty much knowing what it's like to eat palak paneer. Oh my god. That is heaven on a plate. The mixture of spices is out of this world. So good. I mean, there's so many of them in here, but they all come together beautifully. The level of heat in here is perfect for me. I love when you get the heat, but it's not so hot and so intense that it's basically burning your mouth and you can't actually enjoy and taste the flavors. This is really giving Ethiopian food a run for its money. I mean, I love Ethiopian food, but this dish is so insanely good. This might be one of my favorite dishes of all time, of any cuisine out there. Well, my lovely foodies, that is everything I have to share about this amazing palak tofu recipe. I hope you found this episode entertaining and perhaps learned something new. And once again, thank you so much to my wonderful friend Surbi for recommending this palak tofu recipe. If any of you think of a recipe you'd like me to try out and feature on this channel, please leave your suggestions below. I read every single comment that you guys leave for me. Before I sign off, I didn't want to forget, I have a couple of recipes in mind that I think you'd enjoy. If you like this recipe and are looking looking for other ways to use tofu. The first recipe is a veggie quiche that I made for Easter brunch this year. You bake it in a pie crust and the filling is mostly a tofu mixture with some tomatoes and Italian seasoning. It's so tasty, so definitely try that one out. And if you're feeling like something a little less complicated, then I highly recommend the cheesy poutine that I made way back, I believe in February of this year. That recipe is super easy. You just have to bake some potatoes as French fries in the oven, and there's also some vegan gravy you pour on top. The tofu comes into play when you make the cheese curd, kind of like this actually. You blend the tofu in a blender and you kind of form this cheesy poutine topping. I've linked those two recipe episodes for you at the very end of this video. And with that, take care everybody, eat well, and I will see you in the next episode on this channel. Bye!